Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry for the small delay getting organized. I'm Dr. Laverne Lewis, TriMet's board president. Welcome to TriMet's Board of Directors meeting for September 24th, 2025. We are gathered again today here at One Main Place in our boardroom for our September business meeting. We are also live streaming the meeting on YouTube. We have four board members, and I think Kathy is with us. Yes, so we have 5. And so Director Frisbee is home with this new baby. Yay. Okay. Despite all of the absence, we have a quorum. Thank you for being with us today. Welcome, everyone. We'll begin with our public forum for those who are present and have signed up to testify. Let me get those ready here. Okay. Members of the public who wish to provide testimony but could not be here may join us virtually after we have heard from those that are here present who have signed up. For all of those offering testimony, please direct your comments to TriMet and to TriMet-related services. We also ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes and that you will note that there will be an indicator to help you notice the time. And we ask that you respect, because there's I see quite a few people testifying today, and they all would like their full 3 minutes as well. If you're unable to limit your comments to 3 minutes, please provide us with a copy. Remember that on our website, board members' emails are available so that you can send it in writing as well. Also, it is very important to the board to hear your testimonies this morning, and we greatly appreciate those. If you ask a question, request information, or raise any issues, it will be noted in our minutes and our record and recorded. And also the general manager will follow up with you. If you needed to speak with anyone, he will have staff meet with you or get your information. Okay. At this time, I will call up to the testimony table 2 people at a time. Staff will help you turn on your mics. Okay, our first is Steph McBarron. Help me if I mispronounce your name, Steph. Okay. And Fisher Jimerson. Okay. You have it on? She'll help you.
Traditional power signal. Thank you.
Okay. Steph, you may start.
Good morning, directors. I'm Steph McBarron. I'd like to say that I am a more frequent transit user than I am. I'm a cook who often works odd hours, and service, even before the impending cuts, simply doesn't serve those of us trying to cross the city during hours off the 9 to 5. I'm also a member of the local DSA, and one of several who participated in the Eco-Socialist Transit Survey project. Across more than 300 respondees, most of whom were daily users of TriMet, the single most desired change through the rider experience was an increase in service, particularly in the late night and early morning. At a time when service is instead facing budget cuts, I encourage TriMet to proceed with hesitation in returning the Portland Police Bureau to the Transit Division. PPB has an extensive recent history of brutality and a high cost in lawsuit settlements to the tune of more than $22 million across the last 5 years. The working class, the ones who pay for fare every day, are threatened by the presence of such an organization on their buses and trains. I urge the board to keep in mind their users and pay attention to the needs of those who ride frequently and for vital reasons beyond the tourists and the day trippers. Please keep service cuts to the minimum that you can, and please reconsider your decision to rehire PPB. Thank you for your time. I cede the remainder of my minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Fisher, you can go ahead and start.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Fisher Jemison, and like Steph, I'm a member of the Portland Democratic Socialists of America. Like some other folks I'm here today, I'm frustrated and sad about TriMet's budget situation. My bus line is first on the chopping block. I'm a regular FX2 rider, and I pretty regularly take advantage of the late-night bus service that's getting cut in November. If you go back and watch testimony on HB 3991, you can find me testifying to the state legislature in August, asking them to save my bus line. Unfortunately, that didn't work, and I doubt I am the only one here who has been let down by the legislature this year. So I know that no one here is happy to be making cuts, and I'm not jealous of the position you're in. But that does leave TriMet with a responsibility to make good financial decisions, and not just to cut service. One thing that feels like going in the wrong direction is the decision to restore Portland Police Bureau patrols to TriMet vehicles. As someone who occasionally does have security concerns on my bus, I'm always happy to see TriMet's safety response team and the streetcar's rider ambassadors. All evidence I know of points to the fact that PPB is going to deliver worse service at a higher price than we're getting now, all while service cuts mean fewer eyes on the street on TriMet vehicles. I was also disappointed to hear recently from Bike Portland that TriMet is reconsidering the more BAT lanes design on 82nd Avenue. Bus lanes are a really straightforward tool we have to turn one-time capital investments into permanent operations budget savings. As you know, every minute of scheduled time on a bus line is going to translate into more money TriMet has to spend to run that level of service. Riders on our busiest bus line deserve bus lanes, period, but we also really shouldn't jeopardize service levels in East Portland with bad infrastructure decisions. And I just wanted to end by saying, again, that I know none of us wanted to be here. I know that, if we had the choice to not make service cuts, nobody here would do that. But the budget crisis is here regardless, and we need to make sure that all of TriMet's decisions reflect that reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. If you have any handouts, or you can leave with staff and we can read them.
We will be emailing you a copy of that survey, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next two for testimony is John Grippe. Did I? Okay. And Michael Reeder? Is that Michael? How do you pronounce the last name? Reitenauer. Thank you. Okay. John, you can go first.
Is this on? There we go.
There you go.
Good morning, directors. My name is John Giacoppi, and I'm the secretary of the Eco-Socialist Working Group of the Portland Democratic Socialists of America. I live in southeast Portland near Mount Tabor. Today I'm speaking to you on my own behalf. I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization. I'm addressing you to air my concerns about TriMet's recent decision to rehire Portland Police Bureau officers to its Transit Police Division. Like every TriMet rider, I know the dire financial straits the system is in. This board held a special session on August 20th featuring a presentation entitled Addressing TriMet's Physical Cliff. I don't need to talk to you about your own presentation, but I think the title really speaks for itself. We're planning to cut MAX service by 18%, the largest service cut for the MAX in TriMet's history. And we're going to be cutting bus and paratransit services as well. I lost my job in 2013 in part because of cuts to the 54 bus line in the summer of 2023. The bus stopped running in the mornings. It stopped running as far out into Tigard as it used to. I could not find an effective substitute bus line, and I lost my job. The cuts to the FX2 mean that I had a previous job going to Troutdale. I would have lost that job too in November, going through with these service cuts. My ability to work in the electronics manufacturing industry, which is where I have all of my experience and training, is at this point compromised because of the place that I live and my lack of access to a car. And seeing my ability to make my own livelihood jeopardized by decisions beyond my control from the legislature is very frustrating. And I do not necessarily believe that TriMet has done enough to advocate for people who depend on its service. I don't want service, I need service. It's not an ask. And I know that hiring 6 more police officers for the transit unit is not going to cost $300 million. I understand that these two costs are fundamentally different orders of magnitude, but it feels like moving in the wrong direction when we are facing such a steep budget crisis to do hiring in that department at all. In the last year, in the annual report released by the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, they reported that they only responded to 42% of calls with their existing 26-member staff. I don't believe that hiring an additional 6 officers is going to somehow clear us into a much healthier percentage. I'd love to see reports suggesting otherwise. I'd love to see what led to this decision being made. But to me, it seems like there's a fundamental problem with an inability to respond to security issues aboard transit that needs to be addressed through other means than trying to hire as many police officers as possible, particularly in conditions such as these. Please reconsider this decision. I understand it's going to be a very difficult conversation going forward for everyone right now, and I understand what decisions you have to make. But as someone who is now effectively unable to get gainful employment while using public transit, any additional service cuts to me just seem unacceptable, and I want you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. You can stay. You can stay. Okay, Michael? Okay. It's turn on. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. I use public transit as my primary means of getting around, and I also work at a Methodist church out in Beaverton. And we have a lot of parishioners that are elderly and disabled that rely on public transit. And we run a food pantry that have a lot of clientele that also rely on public transit. So I'm very attuned to some of the inadequacies in Washington County, particularly whenever it comes to public transit. I know a lot of people have complained to me about service on bus 52 and how unreliable it is. So I was really shocked whenever I saw that line 52 is up for cuts in November. Because it really sucks whenever you go shopping at Tannisbourne at night and you get stranded waiting for a bus that only comes once an hour. And so I just highly encourage TriMet to exhaust all other options before cutting services. And I also encourage the TriMet board to participate in the Week Without Driving next week, and also just any transit decision makers in general. I think it's important that you get a firsthand experience of what it feels like to be dependent on public transit. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Michael, if you have copies of your testimony today, we would greatly appreciate you leaving those for us. Okay, thank you. Oh, shoot. Next, I would like to call Jordan Lewis and Bailey Lanco. Did I say that correctly? Thank you. Yes, it should be with the little
Like this?
person.
Okay.
Perfect. There you go.
Hello, TriMet Board. My name is Jordan Lewis, and I'm a registered lobbyist for Portland Democratic Socialists of America. I live in the Goose Hollow neighborhood, and I share a single car with my partner who works in Camas, so I'm pretty reliant on TriMet. I came today ready to calculate the cost of 6 Portland Police Bureau officers and a Multnomah County Sheriff, compare it to the cost of additional bus drivers, and see what service we're foreclosing through the move to hire these transit cops. But let's take a minute and think about what 7 additional officers will do. Let's assume each officer works an 8-hour day and transfers instantly between every TriMet vehicle. 3,360 officer minutes per day divided by 800 vehicles gets us about 4 minutes of cop time per vehicle per day. Once again, I'm asking TriMet to consider the principle of eyes on the street and recognize that gains in ridership due to better transit service will make transit vehicles safer. More occupied vehicles are safer. This is supported by TriMet's own blog post that crime dropped over 50% between 2021 and 2024, despite no police being hired during that time. I always come back to this trade-off between service spending and carceral spending because it illustrates the elite projection of electeds and suburban choice riders who always get the microphone when it comes to ridership. I could go off on how service quality, not surveillance and exclusion, are going to get us back to pre-pandemic ridership, but I think TriMet already knows this. What I can't wrap my head around is recent reporting out of Bike Portland that TriMet is going to ask for reduced bus lane coverage on 82nd Avenue after a public outreach session this summer concluded 70% of residents supported bus lanes along the majority of the corridor, and a majority of business owners at that. This comes after a disastrous long session and special session in the legislature where suburban reps torpedoed any additional long-term funding for TriMet. Why are we complying in advance with lunatics in Salem that only want to destroy our way of life as part of some culture war? Every time we cut service, that is violence. We're going to ruin commutes, make others leave their friends earlier in the night to catch a bus, cause additional crashes from induced driving activity. This is violence. If we know our funding is limited, shouldn't we be using this once-in-a-century rebuild to lock in faster and more reliable bus service for the next 100 years? Make it make sense. Now is the time for TriMet to advocate for its riders and to ensure that future projects maximize travel time and reliability, especially when such improvements are practically free. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Jordan Bailey? Yes. Your mic on? Yes, okay.
Hello, my name is Bailey. It's actually my first time testifying, so this might be a little rocky for me. I apologize in advance. So I'm here today to talk about some of the problems that have recently been brought to my attention. Well, I've actually been there when they have happened. I'm bringing to you the problems that have happened on the West Commuter Rail recently. They have been absolutely appalling to what has happened to the operations in general. The West is not what it used to be because there's these group of folks called what you call rail fans. They have assaulted the crew, other passengers, assaulted me, and continuously hurt us, both physically, mentally. And we've been given the ring around for the security. So, you know, we're told to, okay, go call this number, right? But nothing ever happens, and they tell us to go call 911. Well, transit security. And these kids have found a way to get to our houses, found the ways to stalk us, like at our house, contact us on our phones. It is wrong. And we need these guys, these in particular group of kids excluded because they are vandalizing things on the West and in the yard. They have caused us great distress, and the line great distress. There has been rumors flying around that the West might get shut down. No, I don't know that. But I don't want that to happen. The West, what happens if the West goes away? What happens? Well, I can tell you. A lot of people who rely on that train for employment, rides, whatever, they will lose their jobs. Everybody will suffer because of this. And what about the people who operate the West, the engineers and the folks who are the conductors? It's just wrong. They will lose their life. They will lose their benefits if something happens to this West line. And I will forever be very upset with that. And the crew has burnout, like from other things in general. But TriMet refuses to acknowledge that it's their train, but they want Portland Western to deal with it. But Portland Western can't do anything because it's your train. Portland Western just merely owns the tracks, has the trackage rights, and employs the people who run it. I am here to hopefully, bring forward these issues on their behalf. The reason why they're not there, because I have to work today, so they sent me on their behalf. I am really close with the crews. I've been around since the beginning of the West in 2009. I was 5 years old then. And this crew has been everything to me. This train has been everything to me. And I hope it stays.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Bailey.
You're welcome.
General Manager, any comments?
Andrew will meet with her in
Okay.
just a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the testimony, Bailey and Jordan. Okay. Next, calling up Thomas Craig and Abby Griffith.
No, you're good. You're good. Cool. And then, yeah, just here. Right, a little bit. There you go. Okay. Awesome.
Okay. No rush. Take your time to settle in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was me first, right?
Yes, go ahead, Thomas.
Cool.
Mhm.
Good morning, TriMet board members. Please vote against any service cuts on the TriMet system and proactively direct TriMet staff to avoid reducing service. Avoiding service cuts will be tough and will force other trade-offs. However, I think those trade-offs are feasible and worth pursuing. There are things in your budget that can and should be cut instead of service. First, security. Security costs on TriMet have risen by over 125% since fiscal year 2023. Preserve the safety response team, but slash transit police funding immediately. Second, pause investments in the Southwest Corridor, other new FX lines, and any participation in the IBR project. Third, slow down the replacement of and maintenance on substations, any investments in bus electrification, new vehicle purchases, and even bus stop maintenance, improvement, and replacement. I'm appalled to have to suggest those cuts, but they're better than the alternative. Cutting service will be catastrophic for TriMet. It will erase some of the progress made since 2020 and risk sending the agency back into a ridership loss cycle that we cannot afford. TriMet does not get the funding it deserves from our region. Folk who rely on the bus, whether by necessity or choice, have far less access available to them than those who choose to drive. That's not in line with our values. When I ride the bus, I see so many folk, the working poor, folk with disabilities, people of color, non-English speakers, kids, who our region claims to want to prioritize, and as far as I can tell, that's a lie. We have consistently prioritized the comparatively wealthy drivers who want to park in and speed through our neighborhood with subsidized reckless abandon. I'm very thankful to TriMet for putting a lot of effort this year into pushing the Oregon legislature to expand the state payroll tax in support of transit. It is too bad that the legislature has failed to deliver. Now the gloves should come off. If TriMet is considering cutting service, then it's time to go to the cities, counties, metro with a clear message. Pay up. Each of those other regional governments should chip in and purchase transit service to allow TriMet to continue expanding. I promise to stand by you. I don't want to be a gadfly that tells you you're just not making the right decisions. I want you to have better decisions to make. So I promise over the next few months, I'll testify and reach out to other government agencies as much as I testify to you. As a Portland and Multnomah County resident, I'll reach out to them and to Metro in favor of payments from their accounts to TriMet for the continuation of service. I hope I can also count on you to protect the system I know you love. Please don't do what is easy. Do the hard thing that our moment calls for. Aggressively and vocally fight for the expanded transit service your riders deserve. Finally, please remember come Monday to participate in the Week Without Driving. Take a week to wear your rider's shoes. I'm sure you'll come away understanding the importance of keeping every vehicle in service. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay.
So I think.
Good morning, Abby.
You'll have to lean forward a good deal.
Okay, got it. I think I'm good, right?
You're good. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Abby Griffith, and I'm here today to talk about Week Without Driving, basically. I submitted my written testimony yesterday. I hope TriMet board members get a chance to read those testimonies from our community who ride the buses and trains. Last month, with other transit riders, we organized Week Without Driving event, August 23rd, and we invited board members, and you all said you will be there. We were excited. All community members who saw your name on the flyer said, wow, this is a wonderful event. We want to have a lunch with board members. We were looking forward to that. But unfortunately, you all didn't show up, and Director J.T. Flower showed up for a few minutes. His wife was in the hospital having his baby, but he still showed up for us, for our community. I just want to say thank you, Director J.T. Flower. With that being said, event was wonderful. A lot of people came, told their story. We did have a couple of TriMet staff came. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being there for our community. and people share the story. We have videos. We are trying to figure out how to share that videos with people's story that they told about no service cut. Right now, I want to say, please do not cut any service, any bus service. You don't know how many people you putting on the street. People lose their job when they don't have a transit service. When I can't get around, I can't go nowhere. I can't drive. If I don't have a way to get around, to go to work or social event, I will be I can't do anything. So next thing I can do is I cannot pay my rent. I become homeless. So please reconsider cutting service. Do whatever you have to do. Keep our service moving and working for us. And this Monday, September 29, is first day for Week Without Driving. This is mainly for decision makers like you. Please sign up. I will be reading your comments, and you will be documenting your experience about entire week. And I will be reading in other local organizations in Portland who are organizing Week Without Driving will be reading your comments and the documents, and you will be posting how it go, everything. There's a clear instruction. I brought paper for you to, that tells you how you follow. I know everything is online, but I just want to make sure you have a printed version too. Please, we are begging, sign up for Week Without Driving, and I'm looking forward to reading your comment after you're done writing. It goes from September 29, Monday, till Sunday, October 5th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby. And we'll make sure that each of the board members get your handout for No Driving Week. I did see the information on that. Our last testimony is from Peter Rideout. Welcome, Peter. Have a seat here. There you go, at the table. Can staff help direct Peter to where to sit? There you go. Careful. There we go. Welcome.
Thank you. I've been riding the bus for over 25 years, and a couple of weeks ago, on a Friday, 82nd and Beach, southbound, the line 72. Waiting for the bus, I waited about 10 minutes, and the bus number 1 came and shot on by. And so the lady next to me said, well, it'll be another minute or two. Sometimes they get stacked up, I understand this. Bus number 2 comes by, shoots on by. Bus number 3 shoots on by. I'm getting a little bit miffed. So I'm standing in the street for number 4. He's blowing his horn. He's kind of a tough guy, you see. And he has 2 options. One, stop and pick us up, or stop and fill out an accident report and clean up the blood and do something with the body. So I get on the bus, and I mentioned 3 buses. It's 100 degrees out there, you know. And you listen to the radio, be cautious, make sure you're hydrated, find the air-conditioned area. 3 air-conditioned areas pass us by. And it's really hot. We're baking in the sun. So I mentioned that there was 3 buses passed, and he says to me, they were instructed not to stop. This is, in 25 years, this is a new one on me. It would appear to me that serving the public is not job 1 for TriMet. And I went on and investigated the funding for TriMet, and turns out It's all government. What the writing public contributes doesn't even make it on the graph. So maybe that has something to do with it. I have no complaints about what I pay. $28 a month, that's $1 a day. You could double it, and it's still one heck of a bargain. So that's, I'm not complaining about that. Just what the heck happened with some big shot in an air-conditioned office says, let these buses go for a joyride. It really doesn't make any sense to me. And so that's my complaint. I talked to this nice lady, Jennifer, and she's going to help out with that situation also. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. General Manager, do you want to follow?
We have both our operations personnel, and Jennifer Kuzer will meet with him
Okay, thank you.
directly.
Is there any virtual? No? Okay. With no other members of the public signed up to testify at this time, don't see any. Okay, I will be closing the public forum. Thank you to everyone that has come today to testify before the board. It is an important right that you have, and we greatly appreciate it. Also, remember, our emails are on our for our districts are on our website. Please reach out to us. I read them daily when they come. And if you have handouts, make sure staff get those so that we can read them. Okay. We will now proceed to the board report section of our business meeting. I will begin by asking Director Graham to present a report from the recent meeting on the Committee of Accessible Transportation.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. It's really nice to see several CAT committee members here today at the meeting, so thank you so much for coming to this meeting, and I know we'll have several more joining us online. So the CAT committee met recently, and we had committee reports reflecting the work of the committees. Specifically, you talked about safety and security, the 550 staff that are currently on the safety and security team, and Tommy Hunt came and provided a breakdown of the current staffing by role. We also discussed the return of Portland Police to the Transit Police Partnership, and there was a lot of discussion around the expectations related to faster response rates. We received public comment in the meeting raising concerns about blue light phone accessibility for low vision blind riders. So staff are going to explore ways that beacon options can become available to help people with low sight better navigate to these phones. The LIFT subcommittee talked about their FY26 priorities and enhanced operator training for rough road conditions, in extending recertifications cycles to 3 to 5 years, and exploring statewide eligibility for services. The Fixed Route Subcommittee updated language for a letter to PBOT, the Portland City Council, and Mayor Wilson, describing the need for improved interagency coordination for pedestrian plans and also for floating platforms. A number of issues have been raised recently about the concerns that riders who are older adults and people with disabilities are having when they attempt to board fixed route buses and trains, only to find a growing number of wagons, electric bikes, and other large items consuming the priority seating areas. And this has led to an increase in ADA pass-up for riders. So the team is coordinating a stakeholder discussion with internal and external partners on managing large items and priority seating areas on buses. The Wayfinding Subcommittee reported on an ongoing accessibility audit of TriMet's website, with the TriMet IT team providing monthly updates on findings from the report and working on fixes and long-term tactics to improve accessibility on the website, as well as information accessibility. An update was provided on IRA, the live stream visual wayfinding pilot for blind and low vision riders, and the committee is curious about IRA's inclusion of ASL supports, but that is not part of TriMet's pilot at this stage. And then we also discussed testing of automatic stop announcements and ongoing issues that will continue to be tested and improved. The 82nd Avenue Community Advisory Committee talked about two potential options for the Coley Terminus, one being an on-street solution and the other would necessitate a property purchase. And there's a co-chair transition of that committee underway. The committee feedback, they requested visuals for safety security team uniforms by role type so that people could better differentiate the roles of safety and security teams. Talked about ongoing safety concerns related to floating platforms requiring pedestrians to cross bus lanes. And the Portland Pedestrian Committee is seeking members. A partnership with this new committee could be a resource for CAT. We also talked about local input shared on sidewalks and bike lanes in Beaverton. And we also discussed the business for FY26 and FY27. The CAT budget priorities and work plans were shared by each subcommittee. And CAT submitted a letter to the board regarding service reductions, which I'm very pleased to invite Jan Campbell to come and read the letter to the board today. Jan is our CAT committee chair and co-chair of the LIFT subcommittee.
Thank you, Eileen.
We're going to wait just a few minutes so that the CAT members that are here can
Certainly.
as well.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then I see that they have appeared for us virtually as well. Yes.
Do you want to move over? Good morning, Board President and Directors and General Manager Sampson.
Good
Can
morning.
everybody hear me?
Hold
Okay.
on one second. Can you move, thank you. This slide a little closer.
Thank you. My name is Jan Campbell, and I'm from District 2, and I chair the CAT committee. And I do want to thank Director Aaron Graham so much for representing the board on the CAT. So thank you for all your input. I would like to read you a letter from CAT regarding the reduction of TriMet's transit service. And then we will begin introducing the CAT members. Some are absent, some are here, and some are virtual. Dear members of the TriMet Board of Directors, on behalf of the Committee on Accessible Transportation, CAT, we write with urgency and concern regarding looming reductions to TriMet's transit service predicated on the agency's financial constraints. As your advisory body representing the needs of older adults and people with disabilities, we respectfully urge you to preserve transit access for vulnerable riders who often very few, if any, have alternative transportation options. When fixed route service is reduced, ADA paratransit service, TriMet Lift, is directly impacted. Under federal regulations, Lift service must mirror fixed route coverage span and hours within a 3/4 mile corridor. Therefore, decisions made about the bus or mass network extend far beyond the direct ridership. They shape the very foundation of mobility for people whose independence, health, employment, and well-being depend on Lyft. We understand that service reductions may be necessary due to financial constraints, and we acknowledge the challenge that presents. However, we strongly urge that TriMet prioritize reductions in frequency over cuts to geographic coverage or span of service. While lower frequency may mean longer rides or increased wait times for some customers, including Lyft riders, it still ensures that all areas continue to receive essential service. Riders may be inconvenienced, but they are not stranded. In contrast, cuts to geographic coverage eliminate Lyft service entirely for everyone within 3/4 mile of a discontinued fixed route. These areas are often near the edge of the TriMet service district, while transit alternatives are scarce, and where older adults, people with disabilities, and low-income households are disproportionately concentrated. A loss of service in these communities equates to a loss of access to food, medical care, jobs, social connection, and basic dignity. Similarly, reductions in service spans can be devastating. Many individuals with disabilities rely on early morning lift service for time-sensitive medical appointments, including dialysis. Without early morning transportation, riders may face dire health consequences that can lead to hospitalization or worse. Transit is more than a convenience, it's a lifeline. When we ask that, as stewards of the regional transit system, you make service decisions that preserve equitable access and protect riders at risk of isolation and harm. The values of inclusion, accessibility, and fairness must remain central to TriMet's service planning. Thank you for your continued partnership and for your commitment to ensuring that TriMet serves all members of our community and does not lose sight of those most in need of access. And this is signed by myself and then CAT members who will introduce as well. And before we do that, I do want to acknowledge our staff that support the CAT committee. They do so much work for us. And that is Eileen. Eileen, if you can, people probably, oh, did I run over you? I'm not going to turn. And Justin over here, and Charlie. Thank you for all your support. We really appreciate you. Okay, so now I'd like to have each individual CAT member introduce themselves here. So do you want to begin?
Sure. My name is TJ Anderson. I'm out of Region 2. Sorry, I have the chef booming voice. Let's try that again without blowing out the mic. Name's TJ Anderson, out of Region 2, Goose Hollow specifically.
I'm Richard Hunter. I'm a member of the CAT, and I'm also co-chair of the Fixed Route Subcommittee, Region 5, and just great to work with Eileen, Charlie, and Justin.
I'm Franklin Uchida. I'm a member of CAT and also a interim chair to the 82nd Project.
My name is Madeline Temple, and I am a CAT member.
And then our members that are virtual.
I guess I'll start. Yep. I'm Patricia Kepler, co-chair of the Wayfinding Committee, and I live out in Aloha.
Good morning. This is Abdul Rahman Osman, District 2, and I'm a member of the CAT committee. This is my new, this is my first year in here. Glad to be here. Thank you for the board for continuing this work.
Ulysses, go ahead, Ulysses.
Ulysses Garcia, my pronouns are she, they. I'm a member of CAT, and I'm also a member of the Resident Advisory Board for the Washington County Housing Authority.
Thank you. And Stella?
Hi, my name is Stella Moore. I've been a member of CAT since July 2024, and I'm in District 2.
Thank you. And then the ones that are not here is Dave Daly, Jason Jadlow, Anna Deanna Johnson, Sky McLeod, and Claudia Robertson. So thank you very much, and thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I want to again say thank you to the entire committee for your time and your thoughtfulness and the real, I think, important advice and counsel that you provide this board on how we think about the changes that are coming and the difficult decisions to be made. But you're exactly right. We have to center equity. We have to center our values. And we will hold this testimony as we are going forward and making decisions. And I really appreciate each of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin, for your report. Are there any questions for Erin from any of the board members? Okay. And thank you to the CAT committee and the members that were here virtually. At this time, we will turn to Director Flowers for the Metro Policy Advisory Committee Impacts Report.
Sure. Thank you, President Lewis. Really briefly here, at the last impact meeting, we received 2 briefings from Metro staff regarding a state legislative update and also an overview of Metro's state-mandated regional housing coordination strategy. Metro's State Affairs staff provided a summary of the 2025 legislative session that ended in June, and outcomes specifically related to land use, transportation, and housing bills, all of which intersect very directly with our work here at TriMet. Various bills aimed at speeding up land use planning and permitted processing were passed, as well as various housing infrastructure funds and bonds to support affordable housing development, affordable home ownership, and permanent supportive housing across our region. Metro staff shared an overview of the failed transportation package known as HB 2025 and the governor's effort to reconvene legislators. On that front, I'm sure folks in the room who've been tracking this are aware, but the final vote on that special session transportation package has been postponed to the 29th of September, so that's coming later this week. We are keeping our fingers crossed that there will be some good news on the TriMet front included in that decision, provided everything proceeds to move forward. Next, Metro staff shared a summary of the Regional Housing Coordination Strategy, which is a requirement of the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis. This effort, of course, will produce a list of actions that Metro will take to support housing production and affordability across the region. And the work will create a roadmap for housing production coordination and equitable access across the region as well. The strategy will coordinate with local housing production strategies and include actions to complement work done by cities and counties. And of course, this entire effort has been shaped by recent targeted engagement efforts and public feedback convened via Metro, which leads me to the last point on this end. You know, we've been having a very direct conversation with stakeholders who rely on our transit system over the course of the past couple months since the failed transportation package in the state legislature this summer about potential service disruptions, service cuts, and we understand really deeply the way that those impact folks' livelihoods. As someone who's been completely transit reliant for significant stretches of my life, I understand that very, very personally. Just know that everybody here up on this dais and everybody here on staff at TriMet cares deeply about making sure that we're doing that in the most intentional, deliberate, and thoughtful way possible. One thing that we're going to need to make sure that we're doing as a community in this moment is exerting pressure in the right places and in the most strategic of ways, right? Somebody who came up to testify, and forgive me, I can't remember which individual said this specifically, but pointed out that much of our funding comes from government, right? So in many ways, our hands are tied when it comes to figuring out the dollar amount that flows through our coffers and into providing service across our system. If we want to ensure that the amount of funds flowing through our budget and providing access to stakeholders across this region on our transit system is not only adequate but substantial, is not only adequate but is representative of our highest aspirations as a city, as a county, as a state, we're going to have to continue working together. One thing I've said to staff in private, but also just want to say here on public record, we have the opportunity to make decisions about when these cuts hit, and we've made a decision as a staff to stagger them out, have a certain amount of service reductions beginning in November, and then a second phase come in March or April of next year. I still want to say for the record that I very, very firmly support us deferring those November service cuts until March or April of next year so that we actually have some time to exert pressure on folks who might be able to help us patch this gap. Thanks.
Thank you, JT. Are there any questions for JT on his board report? Okay. Now we'll go to Director Kellogg to present a report from his recent meeting with the TriMet Crash Advisory Committee.
Thank you, President Lewis. So the TriMet Crash Committee met on August 14th, about a month ago. Our chair was unavailable for the meeting, so Andrew Wilson, our esteemed Director of Safety and Security, hosted the meeting. For those of you who aren't aware, the Crash Committee's goal is to look at major crashes that happen with TriMet assets and figure out first, what happened? Was it an operator problem, or was it, somebody violating traffic laws? And then second, looking at the infrastructure out there. Are there places where we can improve the infrastructure so to reduce the chances of crashes? So each meeting we review 10 to 12 crashes. Each committee member is assigned 1 or 2. We look through the videos, we look through the police reports, and we, as a group, discuss the crashes and again, look at them from that perspective of what went wrong and what can we do, if anything, in the environment to fix it. One of the items that we spoke about at this meeting was looking at the way that things are reported out. So when there is a crash, there's TriMet personnel that show up and talk to the operator and take them to a drug test, and there are police reports, and there are occasionally other statements in there, but it's not really a uniform reporting system, except where the crash has to be reported to the Federal Transit Authority. And then there is a standard form, and it's extremely well organized, and so we talked about maybe applying that to all of TriMet's crashes, even those that don't have to be reported to the FTA, pardon me. So we're looking at that and how much extra manpower and so on and so forth that's going to take. Also, I just want to put a call out to any operators or citizens who use TriMet, are familiar with the system, and they see places where, there are consistently problems that we can fix, whether it's an infrastructure fix or an asset fix. That's extremely helpful. I've had several operators reach out to me individually to say, there's a bike rack on this corner that we can't get around anymore. So we got that moved. So anyway, that is my report.
Thank you, Robert. Are there any questions for Robert on the Crash Advisory Committee report? Okay, seeing none. Next, I will ask Director Kim to report from this morning's Finance and Audit Committee meeting. Director Kim?
Thank you, President Lewis. I'll be talking about 2 things this morning from our F&A committee meeting that took place prior to the board meeting. One is on the topic of external audit update. Management gave an update on the external audit to date. Fiscal year 25 is the second year preparing an annual comprehensive financial report. Management provided an overview of new accounting standards that are effective for fiscal year 25. We also learned there's a delay from the Federal Office of Management and Budget at the federal level that will delay completion of the audit of our federal awards. Management also reported that there are no findings to date in the external audit, which is very good. At the October board meeting, our external auditors from Aid Bailey will present the results of the external audit. The second item we discussed was on the topic of budget balancing scorecard. The management presented financial information for fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 2040, outlining new revenue, service cuts, and spending reductions. This budget scorecard will also be discussed at the board retreat. Thank you all.
Thank you, Director Kim. If there are any questions, follow-up for Director Kim? Okay. Hearing none, thank you. We have one last piece of reports, and then we will take a short break. At this time, I would like to present the annual fiscal year 25 performance evaluation of our General Manager, Sam Dessou, Jr. This covers the time period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. First, I'd like to thank all of the directors who met in executive session to provide feedback, comments, and you'll also have a chance today to add any additional comments. Second, a reminder to the board and the public that the full performance evaluation of Mr. Dessou is contained in our board packet and is posted on TriMet's website. To summarize the evaluation, key deliverables for the general manager this past fiscal year included 15 deliverables focused on ridership growth, community engagement, safety and security, workforce stability, infrastructure, and financial stewardship. The general manager additionally advanced innovation and equity initiatives, by providing same-day service for paratransit eligible riders and addressing the first and last mile challenges with other mobility options, along with leadership development while emphasizing safety, accessibility, and fiscal responsibility. Sam Dessou has successfully met the board's fiscal year 25 objectives, delivering on business goals and advancing strategic priorities. Under his leadership, TriMet was recognized by Forbes in 2024 as one of Oregon's 5 top employers and the best Oregon-based employer overall. He, along with this agency, has navigated significant fiscal challenges stemming from the ever-changing political and regulatory environment, the pressing need of asset maintenance for our buses and our light rail, and replacement, global supply chain disruptions, and reduced financial resources. Despite these obstacles, TriMet continues to move forward with focus and determination, guided by Sam's leadership and this board's vision. I'll say that again, this board's vision. We are confident in the agency's ability to meet challenges head-on, seize all opportunities, grow the ridership, and deliver safe, reliable, and innovative transit services that our region deserves. Now, at this time, I would usually talk about how we would motion for the general manager's annual compensation, and this being the year in which the general manager successfully met all of the expectations. However, given TriMet's financial deficit and required service and staffing reductions, both the general manager and the entire board agree that we will forego a merit increase in the most responsible course. The decision demonstrates fiscal discipline at the top and reinforces this agency's commitment to financial stability. The board deserves the right to revisit this in the future. At this time, I would like to ask from the board, are there any questions or comments regarding General Manager Dessou's performance evaluation? Show of hands there. Okay, Erin?
I just wanted to add my thank you to you and your leadership team. I know this has been an extraordinary year with a lot of challenges that were not foreseen when we were setting goals and expectations, and things that have come up along the way that you and we have had to respond to. And I appreciate the community engagement, the continual focus on how we can achieve TriMet's goals in spite of the challenges. And I also know that that kind of leadership through this type of uncertainty takes a great toll. So I just want to say thank you to you and to your leadership team.
Thank you, Erin. JT?
Yeah, just want to echo that sentiment. You know, General Manager Dessou, when you accepted this role and made the decision to move to Portland to help move our transit system forward, I'm sure this is not the world you imagine stepping into, right? There have been so many things that have been entirely out of your control, but if there is one thing that's true in the way that you've modeled leadership for us as a region, it's that you've always been willing to put the people of this region first in the way that you've led this agency, and we're so deeply grateful to you for that. I think this decision is just yet another example of your remarkable leadership, so thank you.
Thank you, JT. Director Kim?
Thank you. Well, time flies. Another year of unexpected challenges. Thank you for your leadership through it all. And thank you for all the staff that you represent. And I also thank directors Robert and Aaron for working on the first drafts. And it was a fun collective effort to work on our comments together. So I thank all of the board as well.
Thank you. Is Director Way still on virtually?
Yeah, hi. I just want to echo what everyone said. I'm just watching from afar today. Thank you so much, Sam, for your leadership. As many folks have alluded to, we are entering a tough time for the organization, right? With lots of proposed changes coming our way. So just thank you for your steadfastness and your just continued commitment to the values that we all share.
Thank you, Director Way. Director Kellogg?
Well, I suppose if everybody else is going to say something. No, I don't have much to add other than, Sam, I know you work your heart out for this every day, and I want to thank you personally for meeting with us each individually once a quarter. The candor that you express in those meetings is very helpful to let us understand, not only when things are going good, but also when things aren't going so great. So in particular, I want to shout you out for all the work you did down in Salem. I know there were weeks at a time that you were down there trying to get the right result, and we're doing okay. We could do better, but we're doing okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a fist bump or a hello or yay from any of staff? Okay. Sam, that was not in the script, but we do respond. On that, ladies and gentlemen, we will take a 10-minute break. Let's get started.
The CAT members are really engaged and excited to help us. And really, I think, very thoughtful in their approach about advising us on what's coming. So.
Can you take your seats? For those that are standing, please take your seats. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we will turn now to the General Manager, D'Souza, for his monthly report. General Manager.
First of all, President Lewis, members of the board, the public, our staff, thank you for being here. And what I did want to say to you and the board is just thank you for believing in me. Also, when I moved to Portland, Portland was my utopia. And when I came here, I seen trains going north and south, east and west, buses all over the place, people walking. Communication was great, and I knew that this was home for me. So thank you all for believing in me and my team, executive team, and also the 3,600 employees that work for TriMet. Really appreciate it. And all of our friends and partners and consultants that's here, really appreciate you as well. Good morning, and in my report this morning, I will review ridership data for you for June, July, and August of this year. I'll provide a brief update on our budget, also following the legislature's special session, and then I'm going to provide our outreach activities taking place this month, next month, as we work through the proposed service cuts with the community. With the budget in mind, I'm making changes to our executive leadership structure. You'll hear about our operations analysis report, as well as our monthly safety and security report with movement with our transit police staffing. And then our safety and security efforts were front and center with lawmakers in Washington, D.C., and also in Boston, which I will review as well. And then I'm going to tell you about an award that really excites me and the organization that our TriMet Maintenance Department just won at the national level. And then finally, we'll recognize one of our great lift operators who's here with us. So we have a lot to get to, so I'll start by ridership. So this morning, we have some catching up to do. I've not presented ridership since June, so I'll briefly cover the past 3 months. In June, we provided 5.6 million total rides, increasing ridership more than 1% over June of 2024. In July, we provided 5.7 million rides, making a 5% increase in ridership over July 2024. And to give some perspective there, that 5% represents an additional 62,500 rides for the month of July. August ridership came in at 5.5 million rides, which was about the same as August of 2024. So while the overall ridership was flat for August, our weekly bus ridership was up 4.7% compared to last year. So transitioning as we work close, we are working on our $300 million budget gap that I've provided to you, and our efforts for additional funding at the state level has been put on pause. You heard it earlier from Director Flowers. I'm sure by now you've seen that the special session vote in the legislature has been postponed until next week, but we still remain very hopeful about the passage of an increase in the STIF. While it's only a temporarily increase, its approval would buy us more time to work with lawmakers on a steady, permanent increase in transit funding. So we've already begun reducing expenses on our administrative side of the organization. But today, our focus is on the service cuts ahead and the difficult steps that we need to take. And as Director Flowers said earlier, I do want to say to all of you that this is very impactful on me as the leader of this organization, on this board that's up here, and then all of our employees. Any cut is impactful to us. So I want to make sure that the public hear that loud and clear as we move forward. It's very difficult for us. We know that every service cut, no matter how small, affects someone, no matter what. But to lessen the impact on our staff, our riders, and a greater community, TriMet will make smaller service cuts to start. And this approach really provides us with some additional time to work with our riders and really learn how we can best serve them going forward. So this morning, I have our Director of Mobility and Planning and Policy, Tom Mills, and Jennifer Kuzer, our TriMet Director of Community Affairs and Engagement, to really talk about what is planned and the potential cuts that we may be facing. So Tom and Jennifer, I'll yield the floor to you. But what I do want to say to the board is we're going to look at the outreach plan as well as we go out and meet with our community and how we will be soliciting feedback from the public on the potential cuts coming late next year and the year after. So Tom and Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Let's go to the next slide. We started communicating with our riders about potential service cuts in July. This slide shows an excerpt from the email that went to our subscribers. We let people know that without additional revenues and with rising costs, there's a need for service cuts beginning in November of 2025, with more to follow. Next slide. This slide shows the cuts that will begin November 30th, 2025 and March 1st, 2026. We'll be reducing frequency on a handful of lines during lower ridership times. In November, this affects 5 lines. On FX2 division, before 7 a.m. and after 7 p.m., buses will be arriving every 24 to 35 minutes. On lines 35, 52, 77, and 81, buses after 9 p.m. will be arriving hourly. In March 2026, we'll make similar frequency reductions on 4 more lines, lines 8, 48, 75, and 76. The details on that will be available in January. These initial cuts are smaller than what we had talked about in that July announcement, so small that they don't require an ordinance. But as Sam said, every cut is significant to the riders who depend on that service. For the more substantial cuts that need to be made, we'll be doing extensive analysis and community engagement to help inform these more impactful decisions. That outreach process starts today when we launch an online survey and share information about open houses. Next slide. We'll be asking riders about the types of service cuts that could be considered. We're asking riders to rank 9 general types of cuts. Starting with these concepts or themes will help Tom's team develop a more specific proposal that reflects our riders' values and priorities. In this process, we'll discuss some of the primary concepts involved with distributing service: how often trains and buses run or frequency, the hours and days of service or span, and where service runs or coverage. In addition to TriMet service, we'll be asking riders about TriMet funding toward partner services, that is, counties operating shuttles and other smaller transit agencies that have connections into our district. And it's also important for people to know, as you heard from the CAT committee, that reducing fixed route service impacts the availability of Lyft paratransit service. One of the 9 types of cuts we're asking about is potentially shortening the Green Line, as was noted in that July announcement. But other than that, the types of cuts we're asking about are broader, more conceptual. We're not getting into specific lines or trips for this phase. And as part of this exercise, we'll indicate the relative savings and impacts of each type of cut. Next slide. This slide shows an excerpt from the online survey that shows how we'll use a $ icon to indicate the potential savings from each type of cut and a person icon to indicate the potential impact on rides. Next slide. Now let's take a look at the timeline for community engagement around these service cuts with the goal of the balanced budget by 2028. We talked about the 2 batches of smaller cuts, November 30th, 2025 and March 1st, 2026. These are the frequency reductions on a handful of lines during lower ridership times. Between now and early 2026, we'll be doing community engagement and planning for the first batch of large cuts that need to take place in late 2026. And we'll repeat that process again for more large cuts that will need to take place in late 2027. Next slide. Many of you are familiar with our typical outreach process for a major service change. We start with an initial proposal and a broad outreach process that usually spans late September through October. Based on what we hear from the community during that outreach process, we refine the proposal late in the year and then launch a second outreach process to gather feedback on that updated proposal in January. This community feedback helps refine that proposal into the ordinance that we bring to the board in March for a first reading and public hearing. The second reading and presumably adoption of the ordinance takes place in April, which then feeds into the budget that's adopted in May. And then we implement that service change periodically over the course of the next fiscal year. Next slide. For these major service reductions, we'll follow that same model, but begin with asking for feedback on general types of cuts. The team will be analyzing feedback in real time to develop a detailed proposal for a January outreach process on the specific cuts that could be made in 2026. Again, what we hear from that January outreach will help refine the proposal that we bring to you in March in the form of an ordinance. That first reading in March includes a hearing and then a second reading in April. Then this first major service reduction would go into effect in late 2026. On the next slide, we'll talk about outreach activities for this first phase of gathering feedback about the types of cuts that we could make. Beginning today, we're launching communications through email and social media, along with a news release, and our PIO will be available for interviews. The webpage, trimet.org/service cuts, is live now with the survey, inviting people to rank the types of service cuts. We've optimized the survey for accessibility, and it's available in our top 5 languages, in addition to English. So that's Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, Russian, and Korean. We'll also be inviting people to visit the webpage through information posted at major stops and at the digital information displays throughout the system. We'll be hosting open houses, 5 online and 8 in person, covering each of your board districts. Most will be bilingual English-Spanish, including some with multiple languages. We're partnering with 5 community-based organizations to host some of these events and recruit participants from the populations they serve. Now let's look at the timeline with specific dates. Our initial outreach process starts today and will continue through October 31st. Through the end of the year, we'll be analyzing this feedback to inform the more specific proposal that we'll be seeking feedback on throughout the month of January. What we hear from that process will inform the service change ordinance that we bring to you with a public hearing at your March 25th meeting. Then, when approved, this first batch of major service cuts would go into effect on November 29th, 2026. And in the fall of 2026, as we're preparing for that major service reduction to go into effect, we'll also be repeating this same kind of outreach process to inform the cuts that will need to take place in late 2027. This means we have a lot of challenging conversations ahead. Next slide. Before we get to questions, I want to emphasize that with cuts of this scale, we know this is going to be a very difficult process with some difficult outcomes. We'll be providing multiple spaces for dialogue to help inform these tough decisions, but we know this is not going to be easy for many of our riders. So Tom and I are available now for questions you may have about the process for outreach and the service cuts.
General Manager, can we take questions at this time? Okay, questions? Director Graham?
Thank you, and thank you for laying out the process. I had a couple of questions. One is, could you talk a little bit about how the Title VI analysis plays into this process?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about that. So our Title VI policy is that a reduction or an increase in service that either reduces the length of a line by 15% or more, or increases or reduces the, I believe it's the revenue hours. Revenue hours is every hour a bus is actually in service serving people. If that exceeds 15%, positive or negative, we must do a Title VI analysis. And just for those who in the audience who may not be aware, Title VI is the federal law ensuring that we don't overserve or underserve low-income communities or communities of color. And so if we are under that 15% threshold in either of those categories, whether the line length or the amount of hours, then we do not need to do a Title VI analysis. So for example, the cuts in November and March, as Jennifer said, are so small that they are below that 15% threshold and do not require a Title VI analysis. We do expect that a Title VI analysis will be required for the cuts that we make in 2026 and in 2027.
Thank you. I think I don't know exactly how to phrase this, but it may be beneficial for us to think about holding ourselves to a higher standard during this process. And I recognize that there is a threshold that's set by the federal government, and it's the 15%. But I wonder if there's a way, if we say, actually, there is a kind of an analysis piece that is needed for any types of cuts or service reductions, simply because I'm thinking that, a lot of times it's the incrementalism over time that gets you. And I want to be sure that we're just being really thoughtful about it. And I know we will be. I wanted to say that I think that we could think about the standard that we hold ourselves to in the analysis process. That will be very difficult. The other thing that I just wanted to offer, and I was talking a little bit with Jan about this at the back of the room and some of the CAT members, but I would appreciate opportunities for the CAT committee to specifically help to support this process. And I don't know what that looks like, but happy to work with you and the CAT to figure out how they can help to advise. Thank you.
And if I could just respond to that a little bit. So we have looked around the country at other transit districts, and their thresholds tend to be around 20 to 25%. So we actually currently at 15% are, if not the highest, one of the highest thresholds in the country. And then, yes, I agree with you. The incrementalism is part of that analysis too. We recognize you can't cut a little bit under the threshold every year to get to that point. And so I believe it is a 3-year period where you have to, be below that threshold in cuts. So that is definitely part of the analysis.
I think that was an excellent suggestion, Aaron. I think we might revisit that during our retreat and look at ways or resolution to make that part of the transition that we're going through. So I will make a note to include that in our retreat discussion coming up. Other comments? Director Kellogg?
Thank you. On one of your slides, you had that we were going to do outreach in every district. Are those events coming up soon? Yeah. Okay, I would love to know when and where so I can block that time off to be there.
Yes, there was a email from general manager of all our districts and where they're located and the times. It went out last Thursday, yes.
As soon as I start receiving those TriMet email again, I would.
That's right. You just had your laptop.
So somebody can just independently get me the date.
Yes, can staff make sure that goes out again to all the board? Yes, because I okayed. Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, but just I was going to announce that too to the board, that for all our districts, that I had requested we all get information so we can attend and be present to hear the comments of our communities and our riders. Other questions? I see a question, JT? No? Yeah, yes?
I'll come up with one.
Oh, no.
So, one thing, I've asked this in the past, but I'm wondering how we're using other low-barrier vehicles for communication as part of this engagement process. Social media in particular comes top of mind. I know we have a really outstanding Instagram management team here at TriMet. They do a great job. They create reels and videos that get tons of engagement online. Are we thinking about using that as a tool to further leverage and expand the pool of people that we're pulling into this engagement process?
Yes, there will be information about this on our social media channels today. There's also an email going out to all of our subscribers, so that's over 84,000 people, and we have a much broader reach on social media, so yes. And then I'd also would emphasize the work that we're doing with community-based organizations to help recruit from the populations that they serve so that we can really be reaching as many people as possible.
Amazing. And are there opportunities for us as board members to collaborate with TriMet to communicate specifically with constituents in our districts on social media as part of this outreach process through collaborative posts and things like that?
That's an interesting thing we could talk about.
Okay, that sounds great. We'd love to.
Very good. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll hear from you again next month.
Okay, thank you, guys. I really appreciate that, and appreciate you taking such care with all of this. So as the general manager, I'm leading the way in cost-cutting measures here at TriMet. A few weeks ago, I shared my plans with staff to streamline the executive team. I made a commitment to TriMet employees that change will start at the top. These changes to our executive team aren't just good, they're great as we move forward. And they've helped us to really set up for organizational success for years to come. So the decisions I've made gave way to an opportunity for two hardworking, dedicated women that's part of our team. So I would like to introduce to the board TriMet's new Chief Operations Officer, Anessa M. Vitko. And our new Executive Director of Transportation, Mary L. Hill. So Mary and Anessa, why don't you come up to the table here for a moment? That was great. So board, just wanted to let you know, as the Chief Operations Officer, Anessa will focus on the day-to-day operations of our transportation and maintenance divisions. Mary L. Hill, as our Executive Director of Transportation, will have oversight of bus, rail, West, Lyft, and Portland streetcar. So both Anessa and Mary started their professional careers with TriMet and spent years coming up through the ranks. Anessa's first role was a training service administrator, and Mary, just like myself, started out as a bus operator. So please join me in congratulating both of their well-deserved promotions. And President, any comments from the board before we close?
Okay, JT, and
Oh, just a massive congratulations to the both of y'all. So incredibly deserved, and we couldn't be luckier to have you in the seats that you're in and the moment that you're in them. So we as a board extend our deepest gratitude to the both of y'all for the work that you do on behalf of this agency and the region and the people that we serve day to day. This wouldn't be possible without the two of you. So couldn't be more excited to continue working with you, and congratulations again. We're so happy for you.
Ditto, ditto, ditto. I gave you hugs earlier. Any words from you ladies? Any?
Really was trying to avoid that.
Oh.
But I feel like, as the new COO, it's probably responsible and appropriate for me to say something. But I will actually lean it just a little bit more towards the personal side. I did work my way up from a part-time grant-funded position here at the agency, working with older adults and people with disabilities, and that's when I fell in love with transit. It was quite a few years later when I realized that maybe this was what I wanted to do for my lifelong career. And I will tell you, at that time, I made a plan that I wanted to be the COO at TriMet at some point in my future. So to be here in this moment is a little surreal. There's still a little bit of pinch me. I will tell you that I have had the honor and pleasure of knowing Mary for about a decade, and I've worked with her in different capacities over the year. And there is absolutely nobody I'd rather be stepping into this role with than her by my side. And so we are a pretty unstoppable team, if I don't say so myself. And so I'm very excited about that. I did meet with my staff, the directors and executive directors earlier this week, and I made it really clear that my vision is simple. It's to perfect the basics: clean, safe, reliable service delivered by happy employees. And if we can perfect that, then we don't have to worry about anything else. So that's my commitment to you. It's a commitment to myself, to the general manager, and to all of my team and our riders in our community. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, General Manager Sue. I'm very, very honored.
I too am honored. As someone who has been transit dependent since birth until well after I came to work at TriMet at 22, please don't try to do that math. I'm young at heart. What's guided me in my work is the experience of the riders, having been one, good and bad. And that's what will continue to guide me as the Executive Director of Transportation. Thank you, Sam, and to Ms. Shelley Devine, who mentored me starting a decade ago, and to Vanessa. I want to make you all proud.
I think one more thing that I would love to share with the boards. Both of these leaders here were selected across the nation as one of 25 to go through a year-long leadership program at our industry. So here's another piece of it. So you have 3 leaders that sit at this table. Myself and both of these leaders have been selected and really appreciate it. And I know that you guys are going to do us proud, this region proud, and you have the heart for people. So keep pushing forward. Okay, board, speaking of operations, I would like to invite our Director of Transit System Support Services, Les Spittler, up to give a monthly operations analysis report. Felicia.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Good morning, President Lewis and members of the board. I'm here to present the monthly operations analysis for August of 2025. I'll try to be brief because I know General Manager Dessou has a lot to cover. The last time I presented to you was in June, and I was presenting April's metrics. Since then, we've made some significant changes to the analysis. First and foremost, you may remember that the analysis lagged 2 months, which was never ideal. We've worked hard over the past several months to reduce the lag from 2 months to 1. Another change is the new format of the report. We made the adjustment to make the information more viewer-friendly, and we hope you find that to be the case. And I have to recognize Catherine Keeling and the Service Performance and Analysis team for that great work. Thank you, Catherine and team. Okay, let's start with ridership. 3 out of 4 of our modes experienced an increase in ridership over August of 24. I'll call your attention to the weekday average in the lower left corner. This is the industry norm for presenting ridership. This is a norm because an average weekday is a better representation of ridership than the monthly total, because it ignores factors that vary from month to month and year to year, like the number of weekdays. For example, August of 2024 had 22 weekdays when August of 2025 only had 21. As reflected, bus ATP and Westall experienced increased ridership compared to August of '24. Max ridership, however, decreased. There are likely a number of reasons for this, some of which may be within our control, but others are outside of our control. The National Transit Database recently published a report of ridership from January 25 to June 25 of all North American transit properties. Many of our peer agencies also saw a decrease in their light rail weekday ridership. For example, Phoenix saw an 8.6% decrease, San Jose a 20.3% decrease, Denver 17.5%, and Minneapolis 14.7%. That's just to name a few. I mention this to highlight the fact that across the nation, similar transit agencies are experiencing similar challenges on our light rail system. Additionally, in a report published recently by the Portland Alliance, it mentioned that visitor foot traffic in downtown had increased 5.6% through August compared to the previous year. There were 6 consecutive months of increased foot traffic through August. That said, however, the downtown recovery is nuanced. We have strong visitor traffic, but the return is lagging. Office worker presence remains at roughly 56% of 2019 levels, well below the national average of around 73%. Lastly, in an article published in the Oregonian recently, it mentioned layoffs from large employers like Intel, Nike, Wells Fargo, OHSU, Albertsons, and Fred Meyer. It went on to state that employers are averaging 600 layoffs per month in 2025 compared to 550 a month in 2024. There's no doubt that this has an impact on our ridership, specifically MAX, because as you know, that system was designed to bring people downtown. Okay, moving on from ridership. You'll notice that there are a lot more slides in this new version of the presentation than the prior version. Each mode has a cover page with all metrics included, and there is an individual slide for each metric for a closer look. We've included a legend on the top for viewers to know what the trend line means for the different metrics. For bus, everything looks solid. Boarding rides per revenue hour dropped over the summer months, but that occurs every year, mostly due to people being out of school and summer vacations. For MAX, I want to highlight the fact that our rail equipment maintenance team exceeded the target for the mean distance between failure metric and are doing better than last year. That said, their PM compliance dropped in August. This is mainly due to the fact that they were 30% short on their staffing. That and the extremely hot weather caused some issues with meeting their preventative maintenance activities. Hot weather really affects our HVAC units and the propulsion system on the MAX trains. I also want to mention a recent success between rail equipment maintenance and human resources and labor relations. Those two groups worked really hard to be able to directly hire technicians from outside of TriMet, and they recently brought on a cohort of 8 technicians. Those folks went through training and started in mid-September, so that should really help out the team going forward. On to our accessible transportation program page. I've mentioned this in prior presentations, but in September of 2024, we had to reevaluate the way we were categorizing major road calls due to updated language by the National Transit Database. The biggest change is that if a customer trip was impacted, either a vehicle swap or the next person had to be removed off the vehicle while the issue was being resolved, that would be categorized as a major road call. There was a matrix developed for Lyft dispatch to more accurately account for these trips in the mechanical incident log. For this metric, you'll see that we only have baseline data for 2024 from September on, and that's due to the change I just announced. Moving on to WES. As always, everything looks good and stable. I want to highlight that the boarding rides per revenue hour hit a 2-year high for WES in August. That's really great to see, so nice job, WES. And then the last page, as you recall, is the mega grid. It's your last one-stop shop for all of our key performance metrics. It's on a rolling 12-month basis, so September 24 through August 25. Thank you for your time this morning. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Les. Really appreciate that. Next, we're going to be joined by TriMet Executive Director of Safety and Security, Andrew Wilson. Andrew has an update on our safety and security efforts. He's also sharing positive development about our Transit Police Division. So over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Sam. Good morning, Board President Lewis and TriMet Board of Directors. Great to be with you today. The first slide is a celebratory slide that took place on August 29th at our Public Safety Office. That is the TriMet Public Safety Office. And this is really a celebration of a lot of work of the team to get the Portland Police Bureau back as a part under the leadership of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department of our Transit Police Division. You know, I've often said, and I think we as an organization believe we're going to be getting better through partnerships and strengthening partnerships, particularly when it comes to public safety. And this was just a great day to host. Both Sam and I got to meet with the Mayor Wilson, you'll see him there in the picture, Chief Day, as well as Beverly Pearman, who is my counterpart of the Port of Portland, who runs public safety. They recently gave us 3 Port of Portland officers as well. And I just remind the board that we are a task force model, which really necessitates that we have participating agencies in the region, which give us connectivity to those law enforcement partners and help us keep riders safe on our system in our very large geographic footprint. It was a big hole to not have the Portland Police Bureau involved, so we really appreciate Chief Day committing those officers. They've already joined the team. They've been on the system now for the last 2 weeks, and we're already seeing some improvements in our response times related to that. I will also remind the board, we used to have 65 law enforcement officers. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that we're now up to 31. So still have quite a ways to go, but over this last year, we've made some significant gains. With the reentry of the Portland Police Bureau, we've actually heard from the city of Lake Oswego, Canby, as well as Oregon City, who want to commit officers as well. I think that timing is interesting. Usually when you get the Portland Police Bureau back involved, people start paying attention to getting officers back in the transit division. And so we're meeting with those folks regularly, and we're excited about bringing others back into the transit fold. Now, these other agencies were a part in the past, and that's what helped us get to those larger numbers of 65. And so it's been an exciting time to sort of rebuild partnerships post-COVID in the transit policing space. And we go to the next slide. So this is our current transit police division, and you can kind of see that task force model. Again, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department is in the lead position. I will remind you all that transit policing is a little different than it was in 2019. So for example, transit police no longer do fare enforcement out on the system. That is done by our teams that we've created. Some folks shared this morning about some concerns about policing coming back. I would just say that transit policing is different. We do have other teams that are doing a lot of those functions, but you do need to have law enforcement on a public transit system, and we hear that regularly, and it gives us some opportunity to work with law enforcement to really address some public safety concerns that our other teams cannot. So it's really a vital part of a healthy public transit agency is to have law enforcement, but I am very proud of the program that we have, which is broader than just law enforcement. We have fare enforcement teams, you know about that. We have the SRT, who is active out on the system, and we also have unarmed security as well. And so, but I do think it's good to highlight today just how we stand in transit police. And you'll see on that, you've got members of Beaverton, you've got the Port of Portland, Portland Police Bureau, Hillsborough, as well as the Multnomah County Sheriff. And so that's how we're built out at this moment. And I'll go to the next slide. So just as a reminder to the footprint of our security teams, so in orange there, you can kind of see the different security locations that we dispatch our folks out of. Again, with over 500 people working in this division, there's need for dispatching capability across the system. So you can see in those orange areas, those are actually all facilities that TriMet owns or leases, and we're able to kind of stage our security presence out there. In the blue, you'll see our transit police locations, and Public Safety Office, which many of you I think have been to, is that Transit Police Central. But I'll remind folks that we also have a Transit Police South location. It's a pretty large facility actually at Clackamas Town Center. Currently, we don't use that space because we have not had enough people from the south area of the metro region to be able to staff that. But when you start talking to folks like Oswego and Canby and Oregon City who are jointly thinking about reopening that office for us, that's really exciting, gives us some more reach down south and along the Green Line. So these are things that we're building back towards. You can kind of see that in this graph, though. So I thought I'd go ahead and show that to you. Any questions on the system map, too, I'd be happy to answer those as well. So go to the next slide, please. Thanks, Felicia. So just a quick update on reports of smoke and fumes. And one of the reasons I say this, you've seen this slide. I brought this forward. This is for bus. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide of rail. All these have been coming down. One of the exciting things that has happened recently is we've seen a lot more reduction and related to drug use on the system, I think really coming out of Senate Bill 1553. And so giving that additional tool to law enforcement to, engage and potentially arrest folks related to drug use on the system, which is an extremely unsafe behavior, has given us an ability to kind of impact public safety more positively at TriMet, and more law enforcement allows us the ability to do that as well. So we really appreciate these continual declines, but we are seeing actually arrests by Portland Police Bureau, as well as our transit police and others related to drug use on the system, as well as drug use out in the community as well. And I think that's causing a good effect for our community. So if we go to the next slide. Lastly, I just want to give you an update on blue light phones. This is an exciting process that we've been in the last couple years. I can tell you that by the end of the year, we'll have 29 additional located between Rose Quarter and Gresham Central. Actually, I misspoke. Those are actually already there. If you ride, which I just actually did on Monday, between Rose Quarter and Gresham Central, you'll see all of those blue light phones up, actually 2 at Gateway. Every place we've put a blue light phone right now has seen a reduction in the amount of security calls related to that platform. I didn't necessarily expect that. So that's actually a really good outcome that I don't know that we had actually planned for. I'm not sure what that's all related to. It might just be that folks are that much more concerned about doing any kind of illegal activity or security-related incident when they see the blue light and they are aware of security. But either way, it's a great positive outcome. So we're excited for next year to be able to bring this to all of the locations, this technology, at all of our rail transit platforms that we own. And so you'll see more of these across the system. But I thought I'd give you a quick update on that, and the update that we're seeing some real reduction in security incidents every time we put one of these up. So that's a very good thing for TriMet. And that's all. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, for your report. I do have a question, and it was kind of part of my report from APTA, which I left at home on the printer, but I do remember a response for you. One of the workshops at the conference talked about fare evasion, and it was so packed, people were in the hallway. It was overwhelming in the response. But 2 agencies talked about 0 fare evasion, but it took them 3 years. And I noticed you did not have any stats or updates in your report. You used to. Can you bring those back?
Yes, we kind of truncated them a bit because it was busy. But we actually have some very good stats on fare evasion with that uptick, and we've been waiting to share that with you. I think I mentioned a couple months ago that we had some stats, and we'll get those to you.
Yeah, can you send those to the board?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We absolutely will.
Andrew, thank you on that, and just hang for a little bit. We'll probably call you back here at the end of my presentation on that.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay, so as TriMet's representative on JPAC, which for those of you that don't know what JPAC is, it's the Joint Policy Advisory Committee of Transportation that makes recommendations to our Metro Council on transportation needs in the region. Last week, I traveled to Washington, D.C. with 11 fellow leaders from around the region, and we met with majority of Oregon's congressional delegation, as well as the USDOT, the Federal Highway, and also the FTA. And we really advocated for our shared regional transportation priorities. We emphasized the importance of preserving federal funding programs for transit and infrastructure, and we highlighted our shared support for regional projects such as the 82nd Avenue project, TV Highway project, Montgomery Park streetcar, and the Interstate Bridge. Also, while in D.C., I met individually with most of our Oregon congressional offices and really updated them on TriMet's projects and also our budget challenges that we're dealing with. So I am absolutely pleased to report back to you that members of our congressional delegation are fighting hard to protect the CIG program, which is our capital investment grants program for projects like 82nd Avenue and TV Highway. Also, finally, leadership staff and I, we met with FTA Administrator Mark Molinaro in Boston. And several of us staffers that were there, we had a great meeting with him. The administrator knew of our problems that we're facing. One of the big conversations that came up was safety and security. And it just off the heels of the stabbing incident that occurred in Charlotte, we were having the conversations with him, and we talked about Andrew and I and Jamie and JC. We talked about things that we're doing and how we're kind of ahead of the game and what's going on. So we reassured him that we would be willing to share all of our information and what's taking place with agencies across the nation. So that was really great, a great conversation and a very important one as we continue to work on our relationship with the FTA and improve that. Also, while I was on the East Coast, the American Public Transportation Association awarded TriMet with another award for innovation. So I would like for you to take a look at a video highlighting this creative solution on our very own maintenance of way crew that created to combat a big issue facing transit agencies from across the country. And we've already got multiple outreaches from different agencies about this creative, innovative solution that we were awarded with. So please play the video.
At TriMet, we like to think that creativity is dreaming up something that's never been done before. But innovation is when you go one step further and actually make it happen. I'm Sam DeSue Jr., TriMet's General Manager, and it's my privilege to lead an agency where creativity and innovation go hand in hand. I thank APTA for recognizing our efforts with the 2025 Innovation Award for our new cable armoring technique.
Like other transit agencies worldwide, we knew we had to do something to protect the cables on our system. What we developed was our own method of cable armoring. It's a tamper-resistant enclosure made of wire mesh and construction foam that conceals and protects wiring in our trackway. This method, which we developed entirely in-house, costs 35% less than traditional techniques. Best yet, it is exceptionally effective. Wire theft has been eliminated from the areas where we've introduced the system.
We are thrilled to have been able to share this innovation with agencies from across the country because we all have the same mission: protecting service, supporting riders, and moving our regions forward.
We are very fortunate to have our Rail Maintenance of Way, or MOW Manager, Donovan Young. Why don't you come on up, Donovan? And also our Assistant Rail Manager, Sean Hall. They are with us this morning, so come on up. Anessa, why don't you? Yeah. Anessa, why don't you stay up with them? Jim Bledsoe, I think you're in the audience as well. Come on up with us. I want to say that your solution definitely will be adopted by transit agencies across the country. So maybe give the board a little bit of an update, kind of the creativity and how you got to the solution.
Well, as everybody knows, we were struggling with cable theft for such a long time. And not only does it affect the disciplines, the MOW disciplines, but control or operations. And ultimately, it affects the public and the ridership for on-time performance, people trying to get to work and hospitals and whatnot. So anyways, we came up with this idea, and it's transformed from day one to where we're currently at. And a lot of that has to do with Mr. Sean Hall here. He's come up and spun it in his direction. And you want to take it forward from there and let them know your changes?
Yeah, so originally, our system was quite a bit different and more labor-intensive and a little bit more expensive than it is today. So we just found, we just took the initial approach and fine-tuned it to make it easier and cheaper and faster to install. So we do have a large section of our system is now armored in this way. And actually, we have, we're doing more work on this coming Friday. So it's a continuous project that's going to take a while, but we're getting there.
Would you inform us, non-engineer maintenance folks, what was the expensive way to prevent the cable wire theft, and maybe an iteration or two? And, well, we saw what the final iteration looked like in the video, which was really helpful. So I'm curious to hear about what's the expensive way the rest of the transit agencies across the country are currently doing, or that TriMet used to be doing, to prevent theft or minimize?
Good question. We started off essentially with encasing the cables in concrete, wrapped in a chicken wire. But with that, you know, that a lot of labor goes into that, you know, hauling sacks of concrete out into the right of way, you know. And then we moved on to having the cables installed in conduit, okay? But then we had to rely on the contractors to do that. And the good thing about the way we're doing it now is that everything is done in the house. We're utilizing our own manpower and our own expenses. It's at a fraction of a cost of what we had the contractors initially doing it for, so.
Also, I want to say, President and Board, really incredibly proud of this team for bringing home. So this is TriMet's second APTA Innovation Award in just 2 years. If you remember, we had Eileen that was up for our Instacart last year on a national level on this year. So I just want you to think about the innovation and creativity that's here in the Pacific Northwest and the metro region.
We're the only ones.
Yes, and we are the only ones that in the industry, out of all transit agencies, have received this twice. Thank you for reminding me. Also wanted to say too, while they're up, Andrew, maybe you can come up and join the group just for a moment. APTA has also awarded TriMet Gold Awards for our rail safety, security, and management for the last 3 years straight. So we received the Gold Award and the safety, security, and management of our rail system. So truly great leadership sitting at this table. So a big round of applause. Thank you all. Thank you. Sure.
Super quick. I have had, and Anessa has had, tons of different transit agencies reach out about this very thoughtful solution. And one cost that we didn't talk about is all of the security cost. So at one point in time, we were running security drones, law enforcement out just trying to protect the metal out on our system, which is a 533 square mile area. So this has given us the ability to reduce those costs as well. So thanks, gentlemen.
General
Thank you all.
Manager, you forgot one important piece. At the conference, people were referring to it as the Burrito Boys because it is considered a burrito, and that was the ongoing. Did you bring the Burrito Boys for showing us the technique?
That's correct. Absolutely. Finally, I would like to bring up our Director of Accessible Transportation Programs, Eileen Collins-Turvey, as well as TriMet Lift Operator Sue Levy. Eileen is going to tell you a little bit more about Sue, who not only serves some of TriMet's most vulnerable riders with care and integrity, but she literally saved a person's life. And that's truly, absolutely, truly incredible. So Eileen, take it away.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning, President Lewis, fellow directors. Today we gather not just to recognize a heroic act, but to honor an extraordinary person. Someone whose life has been a testament to courage, compassion, and quiet, unwavering service. We often hear the phrase, everyday heroes walk among us, and indeed we have those banners hanging at our garages. But rarely do we have the privilege to work beside one of this caliber, ride alongside one, and call them one of our own. I'm honored to share the story of my friend Sue Levy, a tenured TriMet lift operator, a decorated United States Army veteran, and one of the kindest, most empathetic, and loyal people you could ever hope to meet. A few weeks ago, in the operator report area of the Lift Powell garage, something happened that none of us ever want to witness. Our fellow operator, Bill, fell ill. In an instant, he collapsed, slid to the floor, and began to seize. But in that same instant, one person's instincts, training, and heart took over. Sue didn't hesitate. In those critical moments when fear could have easily taken hold, it was Sue who stepped forward without hesitation. Calm, steady, and with the kind of quiet bravery forged through years of service, she immediately began performing CPR, sustaining her colleague's life until emergency responders could arrive. When Sue recognized Bill was no longer breathing properly, she did what she was trained to do, what she's always done, and began CPR. With the support of operators Angel and Trish, she kept Bill's heart beating until paramedics arrived, and because of Sue, Bill is still with us today. Because of her actions, a life was saved. A family was spared unthinkable loss, and our TriMet family was reminded of the extraordinary people who serve this community every single day. But this wasn't the first time Sue saved a life with CPR. Remarkably, it was her third. Yet this time was different. I know, I take her everywhere with me, I'm just saying. This was a friend, a colleague, a brother in this family we call TriMet Lift. And how was Sue so prepared? It's no accident. Sue's a 33-year U.S. Army veteran, combat first aid certified, and a woman whose entire life has been built around protecting and caring for others. From military police officer to drill instructor, from auto technician to advocate for LGBTQIA veterans' rights, Sue has shown up for people in every way imaginable. But what makes this story even more remarkable is that if you ask Sue about it, she'll tell you she was just doing what anyone would do. That humility, that sense of duty, it's who she is. A person who serves without expecting recognition, who lifts others without asking for praise, and who meets every day, and each rider with patience, kindness, and unwavering heart. Her calmness under pressure, her training, and above all, her compassion remind us that heroism isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about showing up with courage, with love, and with a steady hand when it matters most. Sue, you are and always will be a hero to us. Sue's wife, Michelle, her son, Evan, and their rescue pup, Faith, share their lives with a woman universally described as kind, gracious, giving, and fiercely loyal. She embodies everything we could hope for in a coworker, a friend, and a human being. So, Sue, on behalf of all of us, we thank you for your service, your courage, and for reminding us of what it truly means to care for one another. You are a hero in every sense of the word, and we are beyond proud to call you family.
So, President Lewis, comments?
Comments from the board? Feedback? Wow.
Wow.
I am glad you're on our team. Ah, that is remarkable. And thank you. I'm sure the family has bestowed thanks on you. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your care. Big heart. Thank you.
Thank you also, Sue, for what feels like a really important reminder in this moment. You know, I think it's so easy for us, especially in this context, to get so spun out about, you know, all the big picture budget cuts and service disruptions and systemic changes to our agency. So much so that sometimes we forget that what matters most at the end of the day is how we treat each other, how we show up in the big moments and the small ones. And your heroism is such a shining light for how we need to show up for one another in community, how we need to take care of one another. And that is really the spirit that defines this agency. So we're deeply, deeply indebted to you. Thank you.
Sue, thank you very much for your service and stepping up when needed. I'm going to introduce a moment of brevity here, or levity, I suppose is even better. As a public service announcement, what song do you sing while you're doing CPR? I was taught staying alive as the rhythm. So I'm just wondering if you had a tip for all the rest of us. No. Okay. Thank you.
There's two things I want to do. One, I want to give Sue a TriMet coin, a coin for her service and sacrifice and courage and perseverance to our country. I want to do this on behalf of all of us, the board and us. And then I want to do something special as being an Army drill sergeant myself. I have a drill sergeant coin that I'm going to give you. It's probably your first one ever that I carry this, and I'm going to give it to you because the life that you saved. I want to say thank you. And here's the other, the second one. There we go. Okay, above the rest. And with that, board, if we could take a picture, that would be great. Absolutely.
Come on in. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I got several. One more. Thank you. Great.
And with that, President Lewis, that concludes my report this morning.
Thank you, General Manager. That was quite the report. You've been busy. Are there any additional comments, feedback from the board? Yes, Director Kellogg.
Yeah, real brief. I hope, is Les still here? Yeah, come on real quick. So I just wanted to talk about the reduction in the number of max riders for the month, because it was like 7%. I know you said there was a nationwide, but that had been from January to April or August or something, and we didn't really experience that, it doesn't look like. So I'm wondering, not only has what happened in August, is that continuing forward in the numbers you're seeing for September?
It is. Max ridership is flattening out. We're not seeing the increases that we'd like. There's a lot of really smart people in the agency that are looking at reasons why. Like I said, some of those reasons are within our control. A lot of them are outside of our control. But we are definitely looking into it, and we'll continue to look into it to try to bring riders back to the max system.
Okay, and not to go too deep in the weeds here, but the things that we can control, can you give me a couple of examples of that and what we're doing to control that?
Sure. Just a couple factors specific to August is the fact that this isn't a huge deal, but August 24 did have an extra weekday. Weekdays are our highest ridership. The Red Line Extension project also created a really good benefit for riders, so they don't have to transfer to get out to Fair Complex. And so that reduced the number of boardings that we saw. And so that is another factor. Things like autos in the right-of-way is an issue. We're looking at that, how we can control that. Generally, we're looking at how we can provide more fair enforcement, more fair support. Those are some of the things we're looking at.
Okay. Was there any correlation between maybe kids going back to school that had used their summer passes a lot, and now that's being dialed back since they're in school all day?
We would have to look at the HOP system. We don't typically use the HOP system to count boardings. We use our automatic passenger counters, but the HOP system is really helpful, so we can look into that to see if the youth passes have been used more in August and less once they've gone back to school. We can look into that and provide a response next month.
Yeah, I mean, I for one would personally be very interested in seeing that HOP data versus the automatic rider data, because I think that helps us also on fare evasion and understanding those types of things. So I don't want to have you recreate your system, but just food for thought.
Okay, I can be prepared next month.
Thank you.
I do want to say something to your comment. There's a couple things that's going on. I've assigned JC and his team to really look at the ridership in depth. So I'm hopeful by December, November, December, I'll be able to bring a report back to you to kind of give you a little bit more insight about what's taking place and why the ridership is on max is decreasing somewhat. But again, we're flat. We're still above last year at this time.
And will that work include any kind of survey? Just so, I mean, we're looking at objective data, but then also getting input. And I know we regularly survey riders, but is one going to happen in conjunction with that?
Absolutely. And again, the experience, the customer experience survey, and we'll bring that information forward as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other last questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward with the rest of our business meeting to the consent agenda. We'll turn our time today to items appearing on the consent agenda, which can be approved by the board in one blanket motion. This morning, the consent agenda consists of 3 items. First, we are approving the minutes of our July meeting, July 23rd meeting. Second is Resolution 240945, authorizing a contract modification with Mass Electric Company for CMGC services for 6 elements of the Type 1 TPSS replacement project, which continues our work on replacing the aging transit power substations along the MAX Blue Line. Third is the consent agenda item for Resolution 250946, authorizing a contract modification with Trapeze Software Group for the Trip Broker API and the Trapeze Pass Cloud hosting services, which modify a sole source software contract with Trapeze for TriMet lift services. Does any director wish to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda? Director Graham?
I have some questions, and I don't know if maybe it's today or we could delay it for another day, related to the item with the contract modification for Mass Electric.
So that would be
25.
45.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time,
We have 2 things here. One, want to just make sure, I think we heard down here, resolution, you said resolution 240945, and just want to make sure it's 250945.
250945, yeah.
Was that, and then the second one, if you want to pull, we can respond.
No, I think that the second one made sense to me to include in the consent agenda.
So we can pull the one that you have a question about from the consent agenda and we'll address it today.
Okay.
I do think it needs to go forward.
Oh, it does, okay.
okay. At this time, we will pull Resolution 250945. from the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the items remaining on the consent agenda?
Motion to, I'm going blue for some reason. There we go. Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment before we vote? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we can move on, just checking to the consent agenda for the one we've removed. Okay, all right. Okay, we will now consider the item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 250945, authorizing a contract modification with Mass Electric Company, MEC, for CMGC services for 6 elements of the Type 1 TPSS replacement project. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
I was making a correction on my topic, and this is 250946.
45.
45, yes, I do. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Okay, so President Lewis, members of the board, this resolution seeks board authorization for contract modification number 2 with Mass Electric Construction Company for the Type 1 traction power substation replacement project. So this comes after the board approved Resolution 2503-14 for pre-construction services and Resolution 2506-32 for modification 1. The traction power substation replacement project is a multi-year effort that's being managed as a multiple element project. Modification 1 authorizes up to $4.9 million to procure long lead items from the East 181st Avenue part of the project. Modification 2 would allow Mass Electric to procure long lead items for 5 other project elements and move forward with construction on all 6 traction power substation replacements. All 6 sites are located along TriMet's original Banfield Max Blue alignment that was installed in 1983. With this project, the existing traction power substations at each site will be removed and replaced with a new prefabricated substation that complies with current safety standards, provides more space for maintenance activities, and improves heat resilience for future extreme weather events. This resolution would authorize an increase in the CMGC contract of $15.5 million for the purchase of long lead items. It also authorizes an increase of $14 million for construction services for a total contract increase of $29.5 million. Along with these increases, the resolution seeks change order authority of 10%. That increase the contract authority by $32.5 million, raising the total contract amount to $37.57 million. The amount is included in the Maintenance Division's FY 2026 budget and future fiscal year budget forecasts for the division, and your approval of the resolution is recommended.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250945?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second. Does anyone have any comments, questions before we vote?
Thank you so
Director
much.
Graham.
I just have a couple of questions. I
Okay.
understand how important this work is because without it, it will lead to the obsolescence of the line and it will not function. So I completely understand that. I think one of the things that I had approached in a previous meeting that would be really helpful for decision-making going forward is if there could be a portion added to these memos that describes the source of funds. You know, I know that we're entering into a really complicated landscape where federal funds are changing and we have to keep project work moving forward and we may have to reallocate general funds to various things. And so I would appreciate, I think it would help me in my decision-making if there was a source of funds section in these so we could understand, you know, kind of what trade-offs need to happen. And then this is just maybe a general question. I know we increased the approval authorities for the general manager and also things that have to come to the board. I don't know if there is any sort of guideline around things that can go onto the consent agenda for contract modifications and amounts, or if that is something that the finance or committee has considered. So that's just another question that I have. From a governance standpoint, are there contract modification thresholds where they can go onto a consent agenda, or they should come for a discussion in the way that we're discussing this now? So those are my two questions, less so about this specific project, but I just wanted to raise them in the context of this proposal.
Is Thomas in the audience? You can come up, and Sean, or Jamie as well. The question, if you could talk about the source of funding around this, or do we need to bring someone from finance up?
Yeah, I believe we can answer that for this project. That's an interesting piece of governance process. Thanks for that feedback. On this specific project, I believe, and my excellent project manager will correct me, that this is 100% general funded.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is a general funded project, TriMet's own money.
Great. I think in the future, as I said, it would just be really helpful to have that clarification. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with respect to your second question, Director Graham, what we do have is we have this is about what to put on the consent agenda.
Yes.
We have the recognition that if it's a modification to a contract that the board has already considered, then it's usually eligible for the consent agenda. We look at those on a case-by-case basis. We don't have like a ceiling, like, oh, wow, this is a huge contract, but we do make those calls sometimes. We say, oh, the board maybe hasn't considered this matter for 2 years, and we have 5 new board members since then. Let's not put this on the consent agenda. In this case, because the board had seen this project 3 times in the last couple years, making, an exemption from low bid, and then, of course, the actual contract itself for pre-construction services, and then long lead items for the modification one. We figured that the dollar amount wasn't as important as the fact that you'd already were familiar with it. So that was the reasoning behind why this one went on the consent agenda this time. I hope that answers your question.
It does. I think that it would be good for us to have maybe continue conversations at the board retreat, just thinking about how we have to be so careful with our dollars going forward as we're balancing all the cuts that need to be made, and to think about whether, and to your point, we have recently discussed this one, and I understand the need for it, but I just wonder if there are some parameters around dollar threshold that we could discuss going forward in this period of time. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from board members? And thank you, not yet. Okay, seeing none. All right. Okay, I will call for a motion. Well, we did. Oh, sorry. We're just voting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. All right, the three remaining resolutions. The board will now consider Resolution 250947, approving TriMet's updated 2025 Title VI program. General Manager, do you have any comments on the resolution?
Yes, President Lewis, members of the board, Title VI was enacted as part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. Under the Civil Rights Act, the United States Department of Transportation, DOT, and FTA required transit agencies to update and submit their Title VI programs to the FTA every 3 years. Therefore, as a condition of receiving federal funding, TriMet must document the board's review and approval and update the 2025 Title VI program and submit it to the FTA by October 1st. A copy of the updated 2025 Title VI report is included in your board packet. Between submittals of TriMet's Title VI programs, the board regularly reviews and approves Title VI analyses accompanying any proposed major service or fare change. As such, all analyses conducted since TriMet's 2022 submittal are included as attachments in the program document. Also included are documents, analysis briefs, and other materials that satisfy all 16 of the FTA's Title VI reporting requirements listed in the board memo of your packet. There is no financial impact associated with the updated Title VI program, and I recommend your approval of the resolution.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250947?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment before we vote? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Oh, yes.
It's like a 600-page report that I got 3 days to look at, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to focus on the major service change aspect of this, since we're talking about doing these going forward. And Tom was up earlier saying our threshold's 15%, and then I think I heard him say that other cities had higher thresholds, but isn't there something in the statutory language that says if the change is greater than X percentage, then yes, you have to do a review?
Thank you, Director Kellogg. First, I'll introduce Jake War, our Title VI Program Manager, and Christina Bonilla Barboza, our Language Access Program Manager. And yeah, Tom gave a very high-level example of sort of how it affects it, but I'll let Jake speak to your question.
Yeah, so there isn't an established federal threshold. The guidance says to develop that threshold by engaging the community. And so we traditionally, in the past, had that match what is in the code as far as the threshold for the board to approve an ordinance. And so that was a 25% threshold. In engaging the community over the last really 12 years, after this specific FTA guidance came out, we found from the community a lower threshold was really more appropriate, because this 25% was an incredibly impactful level. And so really we wanted to be more sensitive to that, to make sure we were doing analysis even for smaller changes than that, at least from the Title VI perspective.
Okay, and then we had the folks from CAT were up, and I realize that race is not the same thing as ability and all that, but how are we, is that going to be part of our analysis, whether Title VI or supplemental in terms of these service cuts?
So in terms of the formal Title VI analysis, that is narrowly for minority and low-income populations. I will say other analysis in terms of, wheelchair ramp deployments and engagement with the CAT and with the community with disabilities is certainly a part of it, but just not formally under Title VI.
Okay, and then in terms of the data that we're using on race and low income, is that all census-based, or is there something that's a little more frequently updated?
Most of it is census-based. We also have some data in there that's based on some onboard surveys and our attitudes and awareness survey. But the census, yeah, there's the every 10 years census, and then every year there's what's called the American Community Survey, and that is a smaller sample of people in the U.S. that gives us some interim data that's not quite as comprehensive as the census, because it's not a count of every person, but it's a sample to give us an idea of some of the changes and the current state of demographics.
And through Christina's work, we also use a lot of public school data across the 17 school districts that live within our service district as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for supplementing my understanding.
And I think, Director Graham, you had a really good question, too. So Jake has done a preliminary review of the service changes, although not required, and we generally go into the service changes, whether they trigger or not. We just don't publish all the findings unless it hits the threshold. But we do have a memo on file, and we'll be, as Jake said, looking at other things we can sort of look into before the service changes are enacted. And Tom mentioned this. There are over 500 transit properties. We're probably top 5 or 7 in terms of sensitivity when you really dive into our analysis.
Thank you for that clarification and additional information. I understand not publishing reports on all of that. It's a lot. And at the same time, I think having communication about it so people understand that it's happening will be really important as we go through this process. So that would be helpful if we could develop some points for the communication broadly to the communities, but also the boards, you know, we as board members can use as we're talking to our constituents.
Great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kellogg and Director Graham. Seeing none other, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your team. Yeah, that was a huge report. God, it was like... Okay, we will now consider Resolution 250948, authorizing a contract with Palladium Technologies for milestone licensing and care support services for TriMet's IT division. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
Thanks, President Lewis, members of the board. TriMet's Information Technology, or IT division, manages an extensive and growing CCTV or closed-circuit network that currently includes about 10,000 cameras. In addition to the cameras themselves, the IT division manages the network, servers and software, and a system that relies on licensed software provided by Milestone Systems. Given the size and complexity of TriMet's CCTV equipment, the Milestone technical support services are extensive. As is typical for systems of this scale, TriMet maintains a support contract with Milestone that provides regular software updates, technical support, and advantageous pricing on additional device licensees. The support contract is purchased through an authorized retailer such as Palladium Technology using competitive bidding process. TriMet received 4 bids in response to an invitation bid for Milestone licensing and technical support. TriMet determined that Palladium was the lowest responsive bidder at $2.86 million. The bid came in more than $1 million below TriMet's independent cost estimate for the 5-year contract. Funds for the contract will be drawn each year, each fiscal year, from the board-adopted budget for IT operating expenses. And approval of the resolution has no financial impact, so I recommend your approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250948?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Does anyone have any comments before we vote? Director Kellogg?
Just one brief question for clarification. In addition to the contract price, there was $500,000 set aside for 200, or a package of 250 licenses. Licenses for what? Is that the software? Is that the camera? Is that all those things combined?
Hello.
Thank you.
Board, thank you. The question is if it's for all of the above. So Milestone does not provide software support directly from themselves. You have to buy their licenses and software from one of their resellers. So those licenses include support and maintenance and software updates.
Okay, and so part of the advantageous pricing is buying them in bulk like that?
That's correct. And the additional 500,000 that you're citing is for expansion of the CCTV system, like Andrew Wilson was talking about with the blue light phones. Those have a license that we have to add every time we add a blue light phone. So that is for the planned expansion that Safety and Security has planned.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And your name was?
Oh, I'm sorry, AJ O'Connor, Director ITS.
Thank you, AJ.
Any other questions for Ethan and AJ? Okay, seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing, seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, for our final resolution, the board will convene as the TriMet Contract Review Board, wear a different hat, to consider a proposed exemption from low bid requirements for a construction contract. In our role as the TCRB, we will now consider Resolution 250949, TriMet Contract Review Board authorization for an exemption from competitive bidding to procure construction services for the Powell Garage Fuel Cell Electric Bus Maintenance Facility Upgrade Project. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
Thanks, President Lewis, members of the board. This resolution requests that the board, acting as the TCRB, authorize an exemption from low bid requirements to allow best valued competitive RFP process to procure construction services and a key specialty trade partner for the Powell Garage Fuel Cell Electric Buses Maintenance Facility Upgrade Project. So we, as we move forward on May 2nd, 2025, TriMet obtained a $39 million federal low and no emission grant that will provide us with up to 14 hydrogen fuel cell electric buses, facility upgrades at Powell Garage to maintain hydrogen vehicles, a hydrogen fueling station, and training for our mechanics who will work on the buses. The Powell Garage FCEB Maintenance Facility Upgrade Project will provide fuel cell electric buses to support the planned 82nd Avenue Transit Improvement Project. At this time, development services for building modifications for the fueling infrastructure have been implemented, and 30% project design has nearly been achieved. TriMet is ready to begin the process of selecting a construction contractor. This project is complex, requires exclusive expertise and selective application, and involves a wide and complex market structure. The TCRB's approval of the exemption from low bid to allow a best valued competitive RFP procurement process will give TriMet the ability to select a CMGC service contractor based on factors other than the costs. TriMet will use the RFP process to obtain a contractor to provide CMGC services along with a key specialty trade partner with expertise in hydrogen infrastructure, design, and construction for the project. The selected CMGC contractor will help establish, design, constructability costs, and schedule certainty throughout. The findings in support of the exemption are attached as Exhibit A to the resolution. A public hearing was held on proposed findings on September 4th, 2025, and no objections were made, and I recommend your approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 250949?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment, ask questions before we vote? Okay. Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing, hearing none, the motion carries. That concludes our resolutions for the day, and I will now adjourn the TCRB, and we will reconvene as the regular TriMet Board of Directors to consider just one or two, we have two here, housekeeping matters. Just a reminder to all the board members, October 3rd, comments, comments, feedback for the 2026 deliverables for the general manager. That's the deadline, October 3rd. And then remind the board that we had asked for an executive session, as we did for the performance evaluation, to come together. Check your calendars. And I think Gwen sent that out October 9th for our executive session. And let's see, that concludes our business for the day. Our next board meeting is Wednesday, October 22nd, here at the boardroom. There was a change, but we're back here at the boardroom. That concludes our meeting. Meeting adjourned. Done.
20.